Hey, what's going on, my friends, and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Victor, and today I'm going to share with you 5 things I think you should know about this amazing and uplifting and empowering new moon we have here on November 1st, 2024. Now, I know you might not feel very confident, empowered, expansive at this moment, but what these powerful energies tend to do is raise to the surface through our awareness, through synchronicity, through us being hypersensitive to our own feelings. It raises up all these old energies, old beliefs, outdated, irrelevant, not compatible with the person we've now become. And it can kind of bring it to a head. And as this is happening, we feel heavily influenced by all of the old stuff and temporarily out of sorts, doubtful, down in the dumps in a myriad of different ways. But it's a cleansing, it's a healing. And the result is going forward in life devoid of all of this baggage. So, in spite of how you might feel, as you're going to soon see, this energy reading is extremely positive. There is no doom and gloom. It's all uphill. It's finally about really reaping the rewards of all the different seeds you've sown and the work you've done, the deep shadow work. It does eventually start to pay off, not only in your outer life, which of course is very nice, but also in how you feel, how you look at the world, how you look at yourself. Anyways, that was obviously a bit vague. I'm going to go ahead right now and break it down into 5 more specific themes that you can look forward to for this new moon. Number 1, maybe the main thing I think a lot of people are experiencing right now is this opportunity to transform their self-opinion, your self-image. The way you see yourself is oftentimes completely distorted from who you are and even how other people see you. When I run retreats, one of these things we'll do is this exercise called the I see you as exercise. It's really cool. We do it always at the end of the retreat when people have kind of gotten to know one another a bit better. And basically you split the group up into groups of like 5 or 6 people, and you sit in a circle and you have everybody take turns going in the middle of the circle. And the person in the middle of the circle has to sit there while everybody goes around and says something along the lines of, I see you as, and then the people take turns sharing nice things. I see you as a very powerful person. I see you as very kind-hearted, loving. I see you as very courageous. I see you as a hard worker. I see you as all these nice things. And the person in the middle has to just kind of like take it. And it's so funny because oftentimes the person in the middle becomes uncomfortable with all this praise, all these nice things being said about them. And you can watch their body language and they'll be like, they're like squirming, trying to get away from all the nice things being said to them. And sometimes they'll interrupt and laugh about it and kind of play it off, deflect. Why would they do that? Wouldn't you want to have a bunch of nice things said to you? You might think so, but the reality is all those nice things start to conflict with, bump into all the negative things that people say about themselves, me included. We all do it. We're all very negative, and most people I know are very hard on themselves, have expectations higher than they would place upon anybody. Most people treat themselves in a way they wouldn't dream of even treating their enemies, let alone their friends and loved ones. And it's time for that to go. This new moon is coming in saying, this is enough. You're just making yourself miserable. You're making life harder than it has to be. You're limiting yourself. There are things you could have been pursuing for years that you're stopping yourself because of these ridiculously embellished and distorted false beliefs about yourself that come from all over the place. They come from childhood. They come from maybe, unfortunately, if you had parents that were real critical, grade school, things like that. And what you might start to experience is catching yourself. You might notice this might be happening a lot right now, this negative self-talk, these emotional responses to various challenges in your life that just don't make sense, or very, again, over the top. Like I spoke about this recently where like one of my things was when the landlord when I have to tell our landlord, we're renting our house, if I have to tell them that, there's a leaky faucet or something, I'll feel really bad about it. I'll feel like, oh God, he's going to hate me. I'm burdening him. And luckily I've moved through that nicely. That was like last month. But the point is, it's out of place. I'm renting. It's this guy's house. I have the right to say there's a leaky faucet, obviously. So, but like me in this case, you might notice your own emotional responses are not really in harmony with what's going on. And you might start to see this more clearly. But again, in sort of the vein of how you see yourself. A quick example, I've been doing a lot of new things lately. I'm a part of now 2 jiu-jitsu gyms. I've been meeting a lot of new people. And I've been finding that because of this, because I've been living kind of like a hermit for a while, but now I'm going out there and seeing people. It's really showing me just how in my head I am, and how judgmental I am, and how weary I am of people not liking me, judging me, that kind of thing. And it was funny. I was on the way to class 2 days ago, and I was driving down this pretty quick moving road. It was like 50, 60 mile an hour speed limit maybe. And I was switching lanes. And as I was switching lanes, which you normally it's okay to do, obviously, there was this really old, kind of a funny looking character on us. This old guy, not to judge old people or anything, but he was like probably 75, 80 years old. And he just, I don't know, he looked like a character from a movie I've seen. Regardless, he was walking across the street. And then as I was turning lanes, he noticed me changing lanes. And he started yelling at me and like making all these crazy, like wild gestures of just almost like thrusting anger and negativity my way. But he was jaywalking. He was the Looney Tune freaking just slowly crawling across the street. But it was so obvious that this guy was maybe mentally ill, unfortunately. But it made me realize that my concern for what other people think of me is based oftentimes from people's opinions like that. Meaning, one of the things that I do is I'm a coach. I'm a business coach, and I help people grow YouTube channels and social media followings and things like that. And there always comes a point where you start to get negative comments. And these negative comments can really mess with your head. I have them, and I get this. And it can really just upset you and make you feel like you shouldn't be doing this. You could have 10 nice comments and one really mean one, and you're up at all night thinking about that mean one. But that mean negative comment, what kind of a person does that? People like that dude walking across the freaking street, Looney Tunes, people who are off their rocker, people who are so consumed by their own pain that they're just projecting it onto random influencers unconsciously. So would it make sense to take that type of thing to heart? Of course not. Bashar always says, if someone comes up to you and says, oh, wow, how ugly your green shirt is. You know, Bashar, he's a channeler, but you're wearing a red shirt. Are you going to be like really in your head about it or concerned? No, because you know your shirt is not green. My point is, you might start to see the way you think about yourself, the way you talk to yourself. It's based on conclusions made at a very young age, and maybe even labels that you've allowed into your psyche that have no business being there and are not at all representative of who you are. In fact, I'm reading this book right now. It's really good, actually. I like it a lot. It's called Limitless. This cool guy named Jim Quick. I just recently heard about him. And what this book is, real quick, it's about like improving your brain, learning faster, speed reading, things like that. And this sweet little kid, when he was young, he was in class one day. He was like probably, 6, 7 years old, and he was in school, right? And a bunch of fire trucks stormed up to the school, and the whole class got excited. All the kids, they wanted to rush to the window to see the fire trucks. And as they were doing that, most of the kids, like him, were too short. They couldn't really see over the windows. So kids started grabbing chairs and standing on chairs so they could see the fire trucks. Well, as Jim did this, he saw other people doing it. Someone ripped the chair out from under him, and he fell, and he cracked his head really badly on this generator thing. And he was rushed to the hospital. And then after that point, he was never the same, unfortunately. He learned slower. He was kind of like chronically depressed and just really self-conscious, and he had like a brain fog. And of course, just made school really hard for him. Things that he used to be able to do and things normal kids do, like read and write, were like really, really challenging for him. And not only that, but he had a bunch of, bullies that would sort of make fun of him for it and things like that. And one day, Jim was asked to read in front of the class, and this teacher became so frustrated with him that she said, "Oh, there's Jim, the kid with the broken brain." Broken brain stuck with him. It became who he was for quite some time. Luckily, Jim led himself to some good influences that allowed him to transcend that. But many of us are going through life, limiting ourselves with these false beliefs given to us by people who have no business labeling us or judging us. And it's influence, and it turns into how we see ourselves. He started to identify with the guy with the broken brain. Why? Because I'm angry, disgruntled, freaking underpaid teacher having a bad day and said something very mean and nasty. And then that becomes the definition of himself. Where are yours? Who has shaped your own inner critic, your own self-talk? Where does that come from? Is that how you actually feel about yourself? Is that how you would treat a friend or a family member or a child? Probably not. And this new moon is going to help you finally to kind of wake up and smell the roses and realize you're not so bad. You're actually a pretty good person. You actually have done a really good job throughout life. Life is hard. We all make mistakes, obviously. But it's time you start supporting yourself and seeing yourself more clearly. When you can do that, even if it's challenging, even if you're attracting circumstances that are bringing these things to a head, imagine going through the rest of your life finally with like a congruent understanding of your true self, your true potential. It's going to open up many doors for you. Number 2, it's a great time to embrace new projects. And it makes sense to me anyway, why the first thing I spoke about is happening, because these new projects maybe are things that you have toyed around with or wanted to do or thought about doing for quite some time. And maybe it was these false definitions about yourself in the end that have stopped you in one way or another. Sometimes these false beliefs can play out in a lot of different ways. Self-sabotage, perfectionism, all these different things. And as this fog about your self-image starts to finally dissipate and you realize your true potential, you might find yourself once again being pulled into like a familiar project, I would say, something that you've always wanted to do but never have. Like for me, playing guitar. I picked up guitar actually for the first time back when I was like 23 or 4 years old. And I had these beliefs. I'm not musical. I'm tone deaf, which I actually kind of am tone deaf, sort of. And anyway, I had all these beliefs and I became frustrated and put it down for like a long time. And now I'm finding myself picking it back up. And I think for me, it's one of my catalysts that's making me realize all of these sort of dysfunctional ways I have of relating with myself. I'm kind of going through this my own way with guitar as an example. But the thing is, I'm aware more than I used to be, where I'm not letting this energy and this resistance and things like that control me. I'm still kind of forcing myself to play guitar and kind of embracing this new journey. And I'm having these successes and high points, and it's been quite a ride. So my point is, it would have been a shame if I just never picked up the guitar again because of my former relationship with it, because already it's brought me so much joy and growth and excitement. It's really good for me. So what new projects are calling to you, I ask? A lot of you might have to do with your life purpose, something that you're like meant to do, but don't feel worthy of, don't feel ready to do, don't feel capable, don't feel credible, all of this nonsense. It's a time to do that. And also to understand, I was watching this YouTube video the other day when I was frustrated with guitar, and it was about like when you still suck at guitar or something. I was like, man, I felt like I suck at guitar still. And this one guy made this video where he talks about people who are really good at guitar have to be willing to suck at it for quite some time. So just because you're not good at this new thing right away doesn't mean you can't become good at it. And what I've learned is that as long as you're just persistent, I have luckily been persistent with certain things in my life, and I've watched myself grow into the role, and I know it's possible, and I hope you do as well, because this new thing that is calling to you just might be one of the best things you've ever done. It has that sort of gravity. I feel like right now the world needs people really stepping into their purpose and stepping into their potential, stepping into their destiny. So it's a good time to go forward with that. Sometimes the energy is suggesting it's good to kind of be patient, wait for the right timing, things like that. This is more of like, just go. You're only stopping yourself. There's no one stopping you but you. And now it's go time. You might find, number 3, you're having a tough time staying grounded. There's an energy, I would say, of forward movement, of action, of expansiveness, of breakthrough. And even though it's kind of interspersed with heaviness and big emotions and things like that, it's like comes and goes, I would say. And anyway, this expansive type of almost electrical energy that can fill your body and your mind up and your consciousness up. It can be ungrounding. You might feel ungrounded. You might feel like you're floating in the clouds in your brain. You're speeding up. You're racing around through life, and you don't have like your footing. It's a common thing, and oftentimes it's an opportunity to dial in your routine better, because there are certain things that might make you feel like not even ungrounded, but like uncentered, not at peace, not calm. Things like that. So is there anything in your routine, your daily flow, that you know is like not working for you? Like for me, for example, I realized I had to recommit to meditating for at least like a half hour a day. If I don't do that, and it's just me, I am very ungrounded. I get very ungrounded, and then my kids get ungrounded, and my whole house is a mess. It's a mess of ungrounded people bouncing into one another. But I know, okay, because it's gotten so intense, I have to meditate. I rarely want to meditate. It's not very fun for me, but I need to, and it helps me. What is it for you, my friend? Maybe there's something you shouldn't be doing. It's something that's not really working for you anymore. Or maybe it's something you could include. Now's a good time to do whatever it takes to just stay centered and focused and grounded. Number 4, it's a good time to just accept that you might be an outlier. A lot of people who watch my channel, a lot of people who find themselves going through a spiritual awakening, after a kind of a short while, they find that a lot of people have fallen out of their lives, friends, even family, and their whole life kind of rearranges itself. And in the end, even if things are sort of less toxic and better, there's a loneliness quality. There's like this yearning for, I know for me, I kind of like sometimes look back and feel like I miss having a huge group of buddies. I used to have a lot of friends in high school, and it was just very fun, you know. But now I'm kind of like I have a few select people I'm sort of close with, I would say. But for the most part, I'm kind of an outlier. And the more I go into public, the more I go into do things like go to jiu-jitsu classes and things like that, the more I realize that it's just who I am. And it took me a while to finally accept that. To accept that I'm not different, not special, but just I kind of, and you as well, I'm into things that not everybody is into. I'm into spirituality. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I'm really healthy. I'm really like to live a very clean lifestyle. I don't really watch sports except UFC. And anyways, like I don't have a lot I relate with people on, come to find. And I used to try to force it. I used to think there was something wrong with me. But as the years go on, and I bet you're feeling this too, it's one of the things I had written down, but it feels better just to like be myself. There's a spiritual connectedness that brings me peace and wholeness, even though it's sort of different on the surface, even though it does leave me having less buddies than I once did. I'm now finally embracing the fact that I am kind of an outlier, and I believe a lot of you are as well. And that's why I think people come to this channel, because they interact with the comments and they see that there's other people that are having the same issues as them, that have the same dreams as them, that have the same challenges as them. And it feels very nice. It feels very nice to know that you're not alone, even though we are sort of spread out in a way. But I really have the strong feeling that not only good things are coming, but there's going to be, I think, in the near future, more of a obvious role for people like y'all who right now feel like for years you've been kind of just preparing for something, but you don't know what it is. And it can still seem very far away. This big awakening, this big shift on the planet. A lot of us have felt it off and on in our bones, in our soul for quite some time. But you look out in the news and you see what's going on, and it feels like it ain't going to happen. It feels like it's a million miles away. But just as things can shift with you very quickly on a dime, in fact, one insight, one little breakthrough can shift everything. Have you had that? I believe that can happen also with the planet. And I think a lot of it has to do with maybe extraterrestrials. That might be, I'm going off on a whole thing now, but that's also kind of another theme right now, I would say, is people starting to become aware that they're not alone here. And this could be even with like your spirit team and things like that, like your spirit guides. You know, my wife's brother just passed away recently, and her other brother is keeping an eye on his house. He's going to fix it up and sell it. He's got all these cameras in this house, right? And then every week or so, this other brother, the one who's living, sends my wife Patty these videos of orbs. Like pretty crazy things. Like one time we saw this video, he puts them into like little YouTube videos. These like orbs that are just visiting this empty house basically. And the other day we got sent this thing where a whole light turned on and off, like an actual like kitchen light or a foyer light or something. It literally came on and came off, and it sparked the alarms of these different cameras. And anyway, my point is, this other brother of hers, he's not as into spirituality as Patty and I, but this is like his version of realizing there's something more there. There's something more that meets the eye. That maybe there is something to the spirit world. Maybe there is life after death. And I'm seeing people who are not normally into spirituality having these pretty mind-bending experiences, and it's a good sign to me. What really feels like it's happening, and this is going in a totally different direction right now, is it's the sort of the big wake-up calls that you may have had maybe years ago to show you that there's more to reality than you formerly thought. I see like lots and lots and lots and lots of people going through it now, more than ever before. It was like this slow expansion, and now it's like everyone's in it. And you might notice this by people feeling like almost everyone you know, you might be going through some heavy stuff right now. And on the surface, it looks bad. But if you look deeper and if you recollect how that affected you when you went through that heavy stuff, it leads to an awakening. It leads to a shift in consciousness that the planet needs. So in spite of what's seeming like it's going on the surface, all I see is my very own process playing out now on the collective scale, something I've been through, something you've been through. And finally, number 5, I'm going to have to steal this cool saying from my buddy Heather Hoffman from Activation Vibration. She would always say this thing. She would always say, everything is always working out, best case scenario. That's a very hopeful thing to say, obviously. Everything's always working out. God is always providing for me. Life is working for me, not against me, that kind of thing. But I think what is happening now is people are really starting to see the truth of that. It's something you can really get behind. Something you may have already witnessed probably countless times in your life over the years of your spiritual journeying. These problems that lead to changes, modifications, transformations, healings, shifts in perspective that leave you off much better than ever before. And then the problems, once they're no longer needed, are gone. How are your problems helping you right now? You know what we just found in our house recently? It was sort of a startling discovery. But we just discovered that we've been living with lots and lots of black mold in our ventilation system for like a year. In fact, this one dude, my AC is like right in the attic right over there. And I was sitting here on my computer, and when he was looking, he looked over at me from there and he said, I've never seen this much black mold in my entire life. And I was like, Jesus, you're kidding me. Come to find, we have another AC. And then when he checked out that one, he said, and this one's even worse than that one. Okay, great. And as he said that, I realized that's why I've been feeling like crap. I thought I was just getting old. The whole family's been like fatigued and not feeling well, thinking it was allergies or something for the longest time. And anyway, we didn't know about the black mold. Well, we're not mad about it. You want to know why? Because of this black mold negatively impacting our health, it's forced all of us to dial ourselves, and even my children. My son Lucas the other day, he's 11. He wants to wear the red light blocker, the blue light blockers, so we can sleep better. My daughter, she gets up early and goes to the gym. She eats healthy. She reads my book. She's completely shifted her life, and me as well. We have all upgraded our self-care dramatically because of this horrible infestation of black mold. And now that we've done that, we're kind of established. The black mold is gone. It's like the guy came and dealt with it in like one day, and we're feeling so much better. We're sleeping better, and everything is sort of happening. But what stuck with us are these new habits, these new self-care habits. And I am grateful for that black mold. I might not have had the incentive to make all these changes, or my beloved family members. It's only when you look back can you see the benefits of these problems, obviously. But what I always try to do is whenever I'm struggling with something, I sit down with my notebook and I ask myself, what am I learning from this? How can I positively adapt myself to this? And every problem leads to positive change if you see it that way. And then over time, it does become kind of a belief, I would say, for me anyways. Everything is always working out for me in best case scenario, as Heather said. Whether that's right or wrong, it's a much more empowered way to go through life. It means that there's nothing that can stop you. It means that you always have the ability to roll with the punches in life and bounce off of anything in a positive way, like a trampoline. There are things that fall into your life that bring you down. But if you don't complain about it, you don't play the victim, you can bounce up higher than ever before. And regardless, I think you're going to find, generally speaking, to tie all this in, this new moon, even though it's going to be bringing stuff up for you, and it probably already is, and even though it might be throwing certain challenges and growth catalyst into your life, what you're going to find is that you're going to come through this sort of window of time way more confident, way more self-aware, way more supportive of yourself, maybe even with some really nice momentum into your very, very bright future, where you can be a leader, where you can be an example of just like this guy, that it doesn't matter what's happening with your life, doesn't matter where you're at, you can always come out of it, you can always transmute it, and you can always end up better than ever before. And if the more people like you start doing that, me as well, it's going to, I think, accelerate this positive wave of change that I think is happening underneath the surface on planet Earth here. And by the way, I forgot to mention, I was going to mention it earlier in the video. If you're still watching, and it's going to be kind of random, but if you want to be a coach, it's kind of a random thing. If you have ever wanted to be a coach, for the very first time ever, myself and Aaron Dowdy, another YouTuber and coach, we're going to be training people how we coach, how to get results, the things that are present in all of our things, our retreats, our online programs, everything. There's a method to what we do, a system of transformation we've been using for years, and we're going to be teaching it. It's called the Selena process. It's for free if you want. It's a free training for coaches who want to get really good results for their clients. I'll leave a link down below at the top of the description. Also a comment if you want to sign up. It's going to start on November 8th. It's free. You don't have to do it, of course, but if you want to, real easy to sign up. There's a quick application process, and then we'll be seeing you live. It's going to be a bunch of live trainings with us starting November 8th. With that said, thank you for watching, my friends. God bless you all, and peace.